When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Living in a place of curiosity, like, why do I do this? Where did it come from? I was riddled with guilt, and I still have it, like, sometimes, but I'm like, is staying small or not taking that action benefiting my life or taking away from it? And that's just how I'm constantly thinking. Is this action or inaction going to benefit me or take away from? And because I know now that taking away from me is not taking away from anybody else.
This is your Kick-Ass Life podcast, episode number 377 with guest Heather Chauvin.
This is the Your Kick-Ass Life podcast with Andrea Owen, a no BS guide to self-help and badassery. Because ladies, let's face it, life's too short for it to not kick ass. And here's your host, the girl who serves it up straight with a side of crazy, Andrea Owen.
Hey there, ass kickers. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad you are here. And I am especially pumped this morning as I record this introduction for you. And I think it's because of a few reasons. First reason being that I got my inbox down to 0. And I know that might not be a big deal for some of you who maybe keep your inbox at 0 or who don't care at all. Like, you don't feel overwhelmed by seeing thousands of emails in your inbox, many of them unread. But it just gives me this feeling of weight, of a little bit of overwhelm at times. And so last night I was done working on all the kind of big to-dos. And I said to myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to organize it all. I replied to every email that I needed to and got it down to 0. I mean, even my promotions folder and the updates folder, like all of it. And I woke up this morning and there was only 2 new messages in my inbox and I felt like $1,000,000. The other reason is that I have committed to, I have an Apple Watch. And it's very, the gamification does something to our brains, and you can close your rings. Those of you that have smartwatches understand what I'm saying. I committed to closing my rings 5 days a week, mostly because I can very much tell a difference when I am exercising regularly, the positive effect it has on my mental health. And I've known this for a long time, but finally I was like, you know what? I'm done with it being inconsistent. Winter is just it's not a excuse anymore because I have a place in my garage to work out. So I've been doing that. I'm on 3 weeks now. I feel amazing. And the last reason I am feeling so pumped is that we have a lot of awesome things that are coming up over here. Oh my gosh, just a list of them. There's some big, awesome changes coming to the podcast. And I know it can be a little bit irritating when people are vague like that. And you're like, I need to know. I don't like surprises. But I can assure you that they're all great. They're all great. We have a new podcast series coming up that is going to be in its own separate feed because I have a very, very strong feeling that there are going to be a lot of you who want to have it in its own special place so you can listen to it over and over again. It's, think of it as being the Rocky theme song that you did not know that you needed. Cannot wait to release that to you. We're doing a special interview series coming up in a couple of months. There's going to be an opportunity for gifts and prizes from me. We are having people getting coached on the podcast coming up. I know I haven't done that in many months, all because my book is coming out August 31st. I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Cover reveal and title coming soon, probably around March or April. Maybe I'll roll it out for my birthday, April 15th. And another reason that this is going to be awesome is because there's going to be an opportunity for you to meet other women in your area safely. I know it's still COVID times, but I decided to do something that I've thought about doing for a while because I know how difficult it can be to meet other women who love personal development as much as you do. You might have your friends and acquaintances, and maybe some of them or most of them just really aren't into it. And that's fine. But it's really nice to have people that you can talk about what self-help books you're reading or what podcasts you love, and just have these sort of deeper conversations about things that matter so much to you. So stay tuned for that. I cannot wait to roll all of that out to you very, very soon. All right. Today's guest, Heather, has been a guest on the show before. I adore her. She's one of my favorite Canadians, and I've been on her show as well. She has a book that is out, and she has such an incredible story. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Heather Chauvin is a leadership coach who helps ambitious, overwhelmed women conquer their fears and become leaders at work and home. Drawing from her professional experience as a social worker and her life experience raising 3 boys, Heather created a signature approach to help her clients create and enjoy sustainability, profitability, and ease in business and life. She is the host of the Mamas in Control podcast, where she reveals her most vulnerable truths about womanhood, marriage, parenting, living through stage 4 cancer, and running a successful business without burning out. She's releasing her first book in 2021. When Heather isn't busy driving her boys to hockey practice, you can find her curled up on the couch next to her husband, planning their next family adventure. So without further ado, here is Heather. Heather, welcome back to the show.
We made it, Andrea. Thank you. Yeah,
we made it. We made it to 2021. We made it to you actually having this book. And I'm so excited because you and I were talking about this a long time ago, how you were ready to write it. I said, go for it.
Yeah.
As I tell
Go
everyone.
for it. Thanks for the permission.
You have a book. Yes. I waved my magic wand and here we are. No, you did all of the work. And this book, Dying to be a Good Mother, How I Dropped the Guilt and Took Control of My Parenting and My Life. It actually, well, this is coming out a few days before it actually drops, but pre-orders are available. And I think I want to kick it off with the question that so many people, I always wonder, especially when people write a book that is a large part of their own personal story. So the question becomes, why did you feel the need to write this book?
I ask myself that too. I do. To be honest, I did not want to. It was a desire. Those little inklings, those things inside of you that just keep tapping at you.
Yes.
That was there for me for 15 years of like, you're going to write a book someday. And I'm like, no, I hate writing. That's awful. I do not identify as a writer. I don't want to spend my time writing. I'm even happy to get in that creative process, but it got dark at times. And then also, I had the privilege of, you and I having conversations, and it, again, is just in alignment with the freaking book, because it's like, you have to find the path that works for you and how that's going to feel for you and what exactly you want that to look like, and to trust the process. But I'll tell you this story, and I don't think I tell it in the book. I dedicated my book to my grandmother, because you and I, well, not you and I, but I've been saying, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I got closer and closer and closer to it. And I was actively looking and nothing was working. And I'm like, am I going to go traditional, non-traditional? What's going to happen? The book wasn't written yet. And my grandmother passed on November 1st, 11, right? 111. And it's 111 my time right now. Is that creepy? My son was born on 111. And I became a mother on 111, pretty much. And when she passed, my grandmother raised 3 boys. I'm raising 3 boys. My grandmother had cancer when she was around 30. I had cancer when I was around 30. She survived. She lived to 86. And the last time I spoke to her, and this is, hopefully I won't cry. Every time I say this, I cry. Exactly.
It's okay if you do.
Exactly.
It's a safe space.
The last time I spoke to her, I told her I was writing the book, and she was like, "That's amazing, honey." She was so sweet and peaceful. And she said, "I tried so many times to write my story, and I just couldn't get it out. I hope I'm around and I'll read your book, or I'll stay around to read your book. And after that, after she died, I just realized, what am I waiting for? Like, make a freaking decision. You have options, make a decision. If you had to make a decision today, what would you do? So my grandmother inspired the shit or get off the pot moment.
Wow. So she just passed away
She passed,
in 2020?
It's been 2 years. It was 2019. Yeah.
Oh, so okay, 2019. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you mentioned having cancer, and that is, you opened the book with that story. And so I didn't realize that later you found out it was stage 4. Like, tell us the story. I know you told it, I think you told it briefly on the last time you were here, but it's been like 3 years since you've been on the show. So tell us about that.
7 years ago, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 Burkitt's lymphoma. And previous to that, I had my business. People think this whole book was about cancer. And I'm like, listen, I did the mentoring. I did the coaching. I used to be a social worker in my previous life. And then I shifted into coaching. And when I started my business, everything was focused on the child, parent-child relationship. And yet women would come to me and say, I don't have time. I don't have the energy. I can't implement this, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, all right, we got this. My youngest was a year old. So I have 3 boys. He was a year old. I was in the active, building phase. I bought into the hustle mentality. Do not give to yourself. Put yourself last on your to-do list. If you do anything for yourself, if you listen to any of the signs and symptoms of what your body and your soul and your life are craving from you, you are a selfish human being. So I drank that Kool-Aid like hardcore, and my abdomen was swollen. And I thought, 1, my body's still recovering from childbirth a year later. 2, I was like, oh, you're one of those people, you need to like be gluten-free now. So just be gluten-free. And that felt overwhelming because I didn't want to go to the doctor. I didn't have time for that. And it got to the point where, and I show a picture of it in the introduction, it looks like I'm pregnant. And and it was these tumors that were growing in my abdomen, and they just blew up very, very quickly. That picture was taken, I think, the day before I started chemo. But it was slightly swollen in around September, October. So finally I go to the doctor in December, actually the emergency room. And the first time I go to the emergency room, guess what I did? I left. I was like, you are not qualified to be in this room. You are not broken.
Oh
you're not bleeding. You're not an emergency. Why are you here? Why are you here? And I showed up like that. The nurse that, checked me in, she's like, why are you here? I'm like, I have abdominal bloating and mild back pain. And she's like, really? Go home and take a shit. Like, why are you here? So I sat there and I talked myself out of being in the room, went home. My husband demanded that I go back. So he brought me back the next day and he's like, we're not leaving until somebody sees you. And I had a CT on my abdomen and blood work. And on the spot, like within a few hours, she's like, Heather, you have cancer. We just have no idea what kind it is. But based on your, the CT, it's showing tumors all over the place. Your blood work is out of whack. It's cancer. And I was like, you're lying. But then there was this deeper part of me that it was like confirmation. Like I knew I was sick, and I was running away from it by avoiding taking care of myself because I was afraid.
Holy shit. Okay. And so you had a baby at the time and you were 30.
Actually 27. I think I was 100 when I came out of the womb. I'm a very old soul. Yeah.
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 Evolved.
Yeah. I can't wait till I'm like midlife, to be honest with you.
I love that. Cause like for so long you and I were friends and I thought you were my age, and I'm like practically old enough to be your mom.
If you were like 10, yeah.
Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point of sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers inline and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. Get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point of sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/noise, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/noise to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/noise. I have definitely been in that place where my paycheck ran out before the next one got here. Life doesn't happen bi-weekly, so why should payday? The money you earn can be in your hands today with Earnin. Earnin is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. Just download the Earnin app and verify your paycheck. Then access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. You can use Earnin to pay for a girls' night out, a last-minute gift for a loved one, or even summer camp for the kids. Make Earnin a part of your financial routine and join Earnin's over 3.5 million customers who say things like, when I think about Earnin, I think about financial stability, security. It gives me a lot of peace of mind. Download Earnin today, spelled EARNIN, in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in Noise under podcast when you sign up. It really, really helps the show. Noise under podcast. Subject to your available earnings, location, daily max, and pay period max. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC. No, but you are definitely an old soul. And to me, it's like a head explosion that you talked yourself out, like you disqualified yourself from actually being there. But I think that points to everything you were saying and how you felt like you didn't have time. And also, I feel like you were pointing to this, but tell me if I'm wrong, that you were kind of trying to run away from it. So was that in a way a form of denial? You also,
severe denial. And then I put my children in front of me as the excuse, right? I'm a mother. And it's the self-fulfilling prophecy. I got feedback like, yeah, you're exhausted. You're a mother. Yeah, you're chronically fatigued. You're a mother. Like nobody ever actually considered my health. It was my signs and symptoms were because of motherhood.
Yeah. All right. So fast forward, it sounds like you went through like a major personal development workshop going through that process. And, you learned a lot on the other side. And I know that you are a student of this work and continue to learn. So I'm curious about your spiritual journey. Were you a spiritual person before that, or did you change through this process, or what happened?
I'm giggling because, so I grew up Roman Catholic, and every time I fell into the trap of I'm a horrible human. I've like shame, guilt, all of
Lots
that.
Of shame and guilt.
So I ran away from the word God as much as I possibly could. And I started subscribing to universe and angels and anything personal development or spiritual. I was always interested in that realm. But I didn't really use it as my guidepost. And previous to getting sick, I had the coaches, I attended the retreats, I meditated, I drank the green juice, I went to yoga, I took the workshops, didn't really talk to angels, but I used universe a lot, right? Like universe, that was my something bigger. And when I got sick, so at the hospital, when I was walking out, I just stopped and looked up, and it was raining. And I tell the story in the book, but it was raining. My husband's walking ahead of me. Where I live, it should have been snowing. It was in like the middle of winter, but it was raining. And I just looked up and I was like, you finally have my attention. And I always say I didn't know who or what I was talking to, but I'm like, God, universe, source, angels, something, fine. I surrender. Like I completely surrendered. And I had some really weird, cool, awesome things happen to me during treatment as well. Like weird shit that was amazing and so healing. And now when I see things like 111 or I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. And it's always when I'm doubtful or when I'm questioning myself or when I'm afraid. And I've truly stepped into the state of trust and trusting the desire, trusting those, what I call breadcrumbs, like the little whispers inside of you, like that's the path you should take. And then the human ego comes in and, I just, I'm wide open to possibilities, and I love learning from different cultures and religions and like openness to something bigger. But I definitely have more trust than I used to.
Well, that was my next question was there a moment, I'm sure for anyone who gets diagnosed with cancer, especially before they know all of the details and the prognosis, did you have that fear that you were going to die?
Yes. Like one of the first things I thought, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm in fear. Right. And I can't back out of it. I can't run away from this. It's there. I have to face it. So I kept taking the steps, and I actually remember listening to Abraham Hicks. What was it? It was like a meditation on your body can heal itself. And I remember listening to it in the early days when I was diagnosed. It was a 15-minute meditation, and I almost had it on 24 hours a day in my ears while I was doing everything else, taking care of my kids, driving, whatever. And it was like, your body is intelligent. It can heal itself. And I was like, you're a liar. No. And I watched myself, and then all of a sudden there was this click of like, surrender. Okay. Like surrendering to the fear. But fast forward, there was a night when, there's two stories that I tell, but there was one specific night where I was home, in between treatment, and I woke up, panicked in fear, went into the bathroom and tried to like shove my tears, right? We do that. We, as women, shove my tears. I don't want anybody to know that I'm sad. I don't want to wake up or disturb anybody. And exactly. And I was crying in fetal position on the floor. And I just remember feeling like, I'm going to die. 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 It was crippling me that night. And I was like, face it. Okay. If you're not going to die, what are you? And I kept telling myself, you're not dead yet. You're not dead yet. Like in this moment, Heather, you are not dead. Okay. If you are not dead, what's the opposite of dying? I'm like, living. Okay. So how do you feel alive? And then I realized that I was not terrified of dying. I had no freaking clue how to feel alive. No clue. And that was terrifying.
I want to kind of shift gears just slightly and go into some of the tools and exercises that you take people through in this book. Can you talk to us about the $1 Million Minute concept?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And where did that come from?
I have no idea. And
okay. I thought maybe like you had this magical download like on the bathroom floor one day.
Well, I don't remember. I really don't remember. And I'm like, did I take it from, like, did I hear it from somebody? Who do I give credit to? I have no idea, but it's kind of like that moment where, you can have all of the money in the world and you can generate more money, but time is limited. And
it's finite.
Yeah. And if you realize, so I kept telling myself, if every 60 seconds of your life is worth $1 million, are you satisfied with your investment? So I'll give you an example. Somebody sends me a message and says, would you like to go for a coffee, tea, walk in COVID? Okay. Mm-hmm. Pandemic outside. Let's go for a walk. It's legal, whatever. Awesome. I ask myself, if this walk, right, 20-minute walk, is it worth $20 million to you? Is that person going to in alignment right now with what you need? Or do you always feel like the person is sucking you dry when when you leave? Are you going to feel lit up, or are you going to feel like you shrunk a little bit? And so now I start to ask myself these questions, or just these little tiny things where people are asking things from you. How are you, like, I don't want to say batching your time, but just paying attention. I catch myself all the time. I'm scrolling on Instagram. I'm like, is this worth $20 million to you? Is this worth $5 million? And I just I'm like, no, okay, stop. What is? Go play Legos with the kids. Go read a book. Go take a bath. Go do something else.
Take a nap.
Go take a nap. Put the phone away. Do something else. And it gets me out of this, I don't have enough time, and into this, if I was investing my time in alignment with what I wanted, where would I refocus my energy and attention?
I've never heard that tool. I love it so
good.
much. I'm going to adopt
then.
it, and I'll give you credit. And then I'll tell people we don't know who the ghost is that, that thought of this.
Exactly.
But I love that. And how many different choices would we make? And yeah, I'm not scrolling through Instagram anymore, but it's TikTok, which is so much more entertaining than, in my opinion, as far as the social media platforms are. But the reason I threw in take a nap is because I have started to really listen to my body, and you've always been such a big, someone that I admire that does this so well. And, I know it comes partly because of, the hard life lesson that you had to learn. But even right before we got on the phone, and I was sharing with you that I started my period this morning, and the first day of my period kicks my ass up and down the street. And I had an hour before you and I were going to get on the phone, and I have this to-do list of things to do. And I'm like, okay, I can knock out a couple of these things. And I sat at my desk, and I got nothing accomplished because I just had like my head in my hand, and I just like my eyes were heavy. And I thought to myself, you know what, Andrea, go lay down. Go lay down for 15 minutes. If I fall asleep, I'll just tell Alexa to wake me up and it'll be fine. And I did. I just laid down for a few minutes, and I feel so much better. And so to me, that was worth what would have been $15 million because I laid down for 15 minutes, because it allowed me to come to this conversation not feeling like I just got beat up.
Yeah. And think about how much more, right? We have to think of the value add, not the take away, not the actual investment of what we're quote unquote losing. Because like you said, you're like, I have this big to-do list. I need this hour. No, you're not even doing it. So why don't you take the nap?
Right. Exactly. That was the main point. And it's not going anywhere. It's not an emergency. No one's going to, the police aren't going to come pounding my door down. No. They've got better things to do, especially here in the United States right now. But I love that you said that it's the value add. Like, I am a better human. I am a better podcaster. I'm a better friend to you if I can come as my best self.
Exactly. And
I love that.
Even to ping off of that, why are we giving our power away to a piece of paper and a list? Like, I have so much to do. I'm like, yeah, me too. Don't we all? Who's in control here?
Yeah. I also like to shift perspective. Like, if we could just take this whole lesson one step further, in that sometimes I might beat myself up for, I'll say something like, oh, it's just my period. I can plow through, I can do it. And so the perspective shift might look like, you know what? I've been menstruating for like 30 years. Like, how amazing is that? That my body still at 45 years old thinks that I want to have children and is like ready for it. Like, that's incredible. So sometimes even just that gratitude shift can change everything. And I don't know. I have found that it does. It takes a lot of work.
I love that you're like,
mental shift.
My body thinks I still want to have children. This is hilarious.
It is hilarious.
There is a lot of that, but it's also like, wow, it's been doing this for how long? And I still haven't learned the lesson to listen.
That's a lot of days menstruating.
Yes.
Think about
it. You're like, you're here again. It's like Christmas when you haven't financially prepared for what? what happened? And
already?
You're like, yes, it happens every year. The holidays, birthdays, menstruation, like what's going on?
That's how it works.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, you also talk about in the book about these 3 zones, and it's like a stoplight, red, yellow, and green zones. Can you explain those and then how they can be used in people's lives and at work? So we have a small amount of the listenership who are entrepreneurs. Most of them are 9-to-5ers or stay-at-homers. So tell us about the zones.
So I like to just, and I don't know where I got this either. It's the zones of regulation. You could probably Google that and find it, but just visualize a stoplight, right? We know what to do with the red. We know what to do with the yellow. We know what to do with the green. I think of human behavior the exact same way. You cannot solve any problems when you are either in a state of red or you are living in a state of red. So this is when a child is having a tantrum and you are like, stop it, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. Why are you doing that? The child's losing their mind. Let them be in their red. Just let the emotion process. Then in the green zone, when the child is calm again, you're saying, okay, what happened earlier? Right? And if they go from green to red, you have to be like, okay, we'll have this conversation again when we're both calm. But we don't realize that we have different states and zones in our lives of emotional regulation and the way that we're living. Example, my physical body was in a state of red. I was living from that place. And yet I'm like, why don't I feel amazing? Why don't I feel alive and energized? I had no healthy habits. I wasn't practicing them. I was reading the books and listening to the podcast, but I wasn't invested in actually living in a green zone. And then there's this beautiful yellow zone where everyone pretends that they don't have. And they're like, I don't know. One day I was in green, the next day I was in red, or my child's behavior, they just go from green to red. I'm like, listen, this is that all or nothing mentality. This is the go-getter. This is the, bulldozer. We need to slow down and to be mindful and to pay attention. Before you got cancer, Heather, there were signs and symptoms. What was your yellow zone? Oh yeah, that was probably going on for like a year or 2. I just wasn't paying attention. Oh, but, when your son throws toys across the room or screams bloody murder or wants to rip all his clothes off because he has sensory processing, what does he do in his yellow zone? Oh, this. Okay. Can you solve a problem in the yellow zone? Like something as simple as trying to get out the door in the morning, back in the day when everyone left the house. And I would just lose my mind when my kids were younger. And I'm like, what is this issue? Why are we always in the red? What's going on? Well, I wasn't preparing anything. And we would argue about damn socks. And I'm like, okay, I got it. So now the night before, what socks are you wearing? Let's actually put them on your feet so they feel good. You don't like all these socks? Okay, cool. I'm throwing them all away and I'm going to the store tonight so that I can buy 20 pairs of your favorite socks. Awesome. Got it.
Socks.
There you go. There you go. Next morning, seamless morning. It's like solve your problems in the yellow zone, figure it out, try to stay consistent with your healthy habits in the green, and you do not go in the red as much.
Yeah. We call those systems over here.
People don't like systems.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me how I typically find that I don't realize how red things had gotten until we come up with a system that works better. And sometimes, they need to be adjusted, but I have found, and who taught me that lesson? My friend that doesn't have children. She has systems with her husband, and it's just how things go. They had to start the system because they have dogs, and like one person was resentful because the schedule was different, and that person walked the dogs more often, and then was thus picking up poop, and it was like dishwasher stuff, like things like that. So they came up with systems, and they have a schedule, and I was like, that's kind of amazing. Everybody should have that. It's hard to find a great mentor who can help me level up. My dream mentor, Shonda Rhimes. So I was really excited when I heard she has a class on Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 plus of the world's best. For just $10 a month, an annual membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even in audio mode. I'm always looking for ways to be a better writer, so I took Shonda Rhimes' screenwriting class. It helped me gain concrete technical advice, including structuring, the writing process, and with shows under her belt like Grey's Anatomy and Bridgerton, it was so helpful. Plus, every new membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't wait another moment to start your learning journey with Masterclass. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/Andrea. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/Andrea. Masterclass.com/Andrea. You know when you're listening to a song on the radio and you get the profound feeling that the song playing was written about you? Now imagine having the power to gift that same incredible feeling to someone you love with an original song from Songfinch that actually is written just for them. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people you love. It's completely unique, personal, and lasts forever. Whether your song is for Father's Day, an upcoming graduation, wedding, or anniversary, or even just a gift to show your loved one how much you care, start your song now to lock in one of Songfinch's top artists. I gifted Songfinch to myself, a song about my late father, and I'm so excited to play you a clip.
Flipping through the slides of learning how to live and how to love, and coming undone a father daughters without, so she writes it down.
One of my clients heard about Songfinch from this podcast, and so she had a song created for her son who was graduating, and she told me that they both cried when she played it for him and that it exceeded her expectations. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person you gift it to can listen to it anywhere, anytime. Go to songfinch.com/noise and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, a $50 value. Again, my URL is songfinch.com/noise. Don't forget to share your song with us too. songfinch.com/noise.
And I feel like this is a constant evolution, right? So when people ask you I'm going to say dumb question of how do you balance it all? How do you do it all? And I just laugh because I'm like, you can't compare where I am today to where I was 7 years ago to where anyone is there. Your life is different, but it's beautiful in any aspect when you're shifting a system slightly, the biggest relief. And it just blows my mind.
It does. Well, I want to stay on this subject and ask you one more question. And you sort of touched on it a few minutes ago, and you talk about energetic time management. So is this the same as what you were talking about, the $1 Million Minute, or is this different?
So this is something that I coined post cancer when I was trying to find a system, because I am such a creative thinker, but there is that like practical side of me that's like, give me the step by step, but that's not how I live my life. Like, I don't need everything to be perfect, but I needed like a step by step. So it's reverse engineering how you want to feel. And I fell in love with like the desire map and Danielle Laporte, but I'm like, I got to bring this down. Like, how, show me, right? And it's managing your energy. I don't know why, as women and humans, we think we're robots and that we don't. What's that meme around houseplants? I know you love houseplants because I was asking you for advice during COVID. I was like, I'm like, what kind of plant is that? But we think we don't need sunlight. We think we don't need water. We think we don't need nurturing to grow, right? We're just this like box that doesn't matter. And the thing that you're after has a feeling attached to it, right? Why do you want more time? Why do you want more space? Why do you want more money? Why do you want that vacation? Why do you want whatever you want? ask yourself about the feeling. So for me, going back to the bathroom floor, when I was like, I want to feel alive, I want to feel alive. And I was terrified because I didn't know what that felt like. That's where I really started reverse engineering how I wanted to feel. And you're going to laugh at me, but I'm like, what do people who look alive do? Like happy people, like what do they do? And I started noticing, I was observing.
I think that's a legitimate question. I wouldn't laugh at that.
Well, when you start, so I would watch people walking and I'm like, why would you walk? That is so boring. That is so boring. Run, do something. Why would you walk just down the same street every day? Who does that? And then I had these, I'd watch people, this is back before like Instagram was cool. So I'm like, okay, people go to a cafe, they spend way too much money on a latte and they bring a journal. Okay, I'm going to try that. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I did that and I just cried and cried and cried. And I'm like, this is not feeling alive. I feel like shit. I feel so guilty right now. But what I didn't realize is one, we are addicted to like instant gratification, right? So if it doesn't make me feel alive, I'm not going to do it again. But what I didn't realize is that my cup was so full of guilt that I had to dump out the guilt before I could feel how I wanted to feel. And so this process of energetic time management, managing your energy, the actions that you're taking on a daily basis to feel the way you want to feel, sometimes it's an emotional poop. You got to feel the discomfort before you feel the good stuff.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have so many things I want to tag onto that. And I know you and I talked about guilt the last time you were on the show. We'll drop that link in the show notes. And for me personally, and I don't know if you have a different take about this or not, but I just have found that I surrender to the guilt and I always have a little bit of it. It's especially just as a mother, and maybe just only as a mother, but I have found that it just kind of comes with the quote unquote job. And once I just accepted it, it went way down. I just was like, oh, okay. I made it not wrong or bad. And I also maybe shift the perspective of my guilt is also tied to my worry, which is totally normal as a mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, I just shrug and I'm like, it just comes with the job and it doesn't take over my life. It doesn't make me feel terrible. And that's been helpful for me. The other thing I wanted to tag on is I think I know why we do that. I think as women, we do it because that's how we've been conditioned. Like we have been conditioned to be selfless, to be uber productive, to do it without making any mistakes or complaining and making everybody else more comfortable. This is my third book. Like I go off about it and basically I'm talking about how we need to unlearn that conditioning and socialization that we have all received.
Yeah. Patriarchy.
Makes me angry.
Yeah. I feel like once your eyes are open to it and everyone's like, I just feel so guilty. I'm just like, oh my gosh, why do you let that rule?
Who made up that?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feel the guilt. But here, I'm curious your thoughts on this. The wellness space, self-help, feel the fear and do it anyways. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about guilt unless it's a woman. And I don't see a lot of guilt memes. Feel the guilt and do it anyways.
Maybe we should make one.
But seriously. And people associate guilt different than fear. I'm like, I feel like it's just fear wearing a mask.
You feel like that guilt is fear wearing a mask?
In some capacity. I feel like fear can be manipulative.
Yes. And maybe because I've done so much work on shame resilience, which is related to guilt, not the same thing, but it's related. I also think that has upped my tolerance for it. And I think one of the biggest things that's helped me and that I really heard when you were talking about when you changed your life, when you went to the coffee shop and got the journal and were interested in Desire Map, like that's you just getting really curious about what's next and what's possible for you. I think curiosity without attachment can truly change our life.
Yeah.
100%. And that's what To me, that's what you did. That's what I encourage people to do. And so for me, I just got curious about my guilt. Like, who made this up? Who benefits from me being guilty? Certainly not me.
No.
My children, possibly, like if it's from a protection standpoint, like if my guilt helps them stay protected, maybe, but it's definitely not the same thing. Like they're not mutually exclusive. And I think that, this is an interesting conversation. Like I think it's probably a bigger one than we have time for, but to extrapolate that, I just want to underscore that my life changed once I decided, and I think it was in an interview several years ago, someone asked me, how do you get rid of the guilt? And I said, I don't. And that's part of the problem. It's like, we feel like it needs to be black or white. We feel like we need to completely get rid of our lack of self-confidence before we go after the thing.
Yeah.
We think we need to be completely feel amazing in our body before we initiate sex with our partner. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. It's like, I would love for you to be on the way. I would love for you to be working on it. And that's how I feel about guilt. I have gotten rid of a lot of it. Like I don't feel guilty anymore when I leave to travel for work. And I used to, especially when my kids were littler. I miss them, but like, to be honest, I really love being away from them.
Yeah. Well, like you said,
I'd be mad at my mom if she said that about me.
Exactly. And it's really about, like you said, living in a place of curiosity. Like, why do I do this? Where did it come from? I was riddled with guilt, and I still have it. Like sometimes, but I'm like, is staying small or not taking that action benefiting my life or taking away from it? And that's just how I'm constantly thinking. Is this action or inaction going to benefit me or take away from? And because I know now that taking away from me is not taking away from anybody else. It's not.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for saying all that. And I also think that because about half my listeners, are child free. And I also think that women feel guilt when they aren't working hard enough, when they're not doing enough for their partners, when they aren't doing enough for their girlfriends, when they're not being a good enough daughter. So I think guilt isn't reserved for motherhood. I think it's exacerbated. But the question that I ask myself of who is this benefiting or who is profiting from this feeling that I'm having has changed a lot for me.
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. That's a really good question.
I think I read that, especially the one around profiting around diet culture and asking yourself the question, who is profiting off of, me wanting to buy this $150 wrinkle cream or lose 15 pounds before summer, et cetera, et cetera.
Or the guilt-free as a marketing tactic. The guilt-free cookies.
Right. Yeah. Are we supposed to feel guilty when we have cookies?
Exactly. I'm like,
you know what else I hate? Speaking of that, the term shameless plug. Women already have a hard enough time bragging about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have one last question for you. And I'm curious, what do you want women to either walk away with having read your book, or what do you want them to experience while reading it?
One, I don't want you to feel like you have to do anything while reading my book. I want you to feel like you're just listening to or reading a good story, and that you're not alone in the world, and to act on whatever you feel called to act on in your life. I've committed my life. First, it was just becoming. I want to become. I didn't want to feel like crap anymore. And then when I was diagnosed, I didn't want to die. And I went on this journey. And now I just want to be a role model. I want to be a role model, and I want to give an essence of hope. So I just want you to know you're not alone, and to enjoy an actual read. There's nothing more annoying than feeling like you're failing when you're reading a self-help book because you're not implementing it.
Totally.
Or you're not following the steps or whatever that is. So just like we're having a warm cup of coffee together. And I don't believe you have to kill off any part of yourself to be good in the world. I actually believe it's the complete opposite. So just slowly asking yourself, where am I discounting myself? Where am I, crossing myself off the quote unquote to-do list? And I'm using that in air quotes. where am I numb and might not even know? And just giving yourself permission to be really curious of, what do I want? What do I crave? What do I desire? And then having the courage to step into that and go after it.
Yes, all of that. Dying to be a good mother. The link is in the show notes. Everybody, thank you so much for being here, Heather. I always love a good conversation with you. And remember, everyone, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. See you next time.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in, and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.